All right, it is Monday on Daily Delivery. I'm Michael Rand, Patrick Reusse with me here as usual. Patrick, it's been an eventful weekend, eventful May already. The Twins are winning a lot. We'll get to that in a little bit. Got to get to the horse race. Unbelievable upset in the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. Probably talk a little Lynx basketball too. They start 0-2 this year. Missing some players and not looking so great so far. We got to start with the Wild, Patrick, because that series now 2-2 after the win Friday and then the loss on Sunday. Coming back here Tuesday for again a pivotal game 5 at home here. Series tied 2-2. I guess the first point I want to make, Patrick, is Marc-Andre Fleury. It's just an interesting goalie to watch, and it seems like Dean Evason's got all the confidence in the world in him, and justifiably so because of the background, the pedigree, the Stanley Cup playoff success. But he seems like the kind of goalie that would drive a coach crazy, and yet he's the one that they want in there right now.
Yeah, it is interesting. He does run around, doesn't he, for a 37-year-old? I don't know if he's as athletic as he used to be, but he'll go places, that's for sure. And he slides here and there and everywhere. And I think they really missed a big chance because one of these days St. Louis might actually have their defense, and that would be make it a little difficult. What they missing 3 guys like yesterday. They've been missing 3 of their 6 starters and 2 of their best ones, and they had the big opportunity after whipping them on in Game 3 when they went back to St. Louis, and that was a pretty stout effort by St. Louis considering who they had on the ice yesterday. That Peronovich from Duluth finally came back from being hurt, and I just said on Twitter that he kind of confirmed my theory or my standard for watching hockey when I saw him the first time at Duluth, because I don't exactly break down these guys, right? So right. I watched first period and I turn to the guy next to me and say, "Who's this son of a bleep?" He's good. If you catch my eye, you're a pretty good player. And he was one of those players. And he ended up winning the Hobie, right? Didn't he? I think he did.
I think that's right, yeah.
Yeah, but they brought him in. He'd been out for a while, and they brought him in, and he played pretty good for him yesterday. So, yeah, I predicted when they went out to St. Louis, they'd come home 2-2, and the winner of Game 5 will win the series. I'm saying that right now. If you lose Game 5 at home, you never go on the road and win Game 6, although the Wild, when they made their run in 2003, they were down 3-1 both times, and so they won Game 5 at home and Game 6 on the road. But if you lose Game 5 at home, you never win Game 6 on the road. But if you win Game 5, then you're going to win the series, and when especially when you're coming back home once. So the Wild, I think we get the winner of the series, whoever wins Game 5. That's my theory.
Well, yeah, that seems, mathematically it makes sense because then you just need the one more in the next 2 games. I'm sure I don't know what the numbers say, but I bet it's up around 70-75% that whoever wins Game 5 wins the series as well. It's been an interesting series because until Sunday's game, it was basically 3 pretty lopsided games. There was still some tension in some of those games. I'd say Game 2 had a decent amount of tension just because, it felt like the Wild wasn't in control even when they were, building that big, 4-1 lead into the third period. St. Louis was playing pretty well, but, we finally had one on Sunday that was a little bit more, back and forth. It was 3-2 in the third period. And I got to think we're going to have more of that in, 5, 6, and 7. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these teams are just, the way it goes, they get momentum and then one team just ends up having the major upper hand. But I really thought this series would be, it's been a close series, but the games themselves have not been that close. And that's been a little bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah, it's weird though. But if you look around the league there, at this point, we have 4 series that have gone through 4 games. They're all 2-2. And there's been some beatings on each, like Edmonton
Yeah.
Blew out the Kings, and then they come back and get beat last night 4-0. And there's been a lot of that going on, and I'm not sure what the momentum thing is on a nightly basis. That has made for some really weird scores when you see with that Toronto Tampa series. That Toronto beats the heck out of them, and then they turn around and get beat the next game. So it's the great advantage of the NHL is parity over the NBA, because it's, as I've always said, you're playing to three.
Yes.
You got a lot better chance to have a nip and tuck game that goes the other way than if you're playing to 120. So
yes.
it's so much of goal scoring in the NHL is random too. It's just all of a sudden out of nowhere, boom, 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 the puck bounces off three people and goes in, and it's a weird game, and it's a lot of it is completely unpredictable. Depends upon whether the goalies decided to have a good night. The Wild, when they got beat by this team by 5 in 5 games, it looked like a blowout, but they pretty much dominated 3 or 4 games, and Jake Allen stopped everything. Now they had to switch goalies again, back to Bennington, which I had no idea until I read about it this morning, that he had lost 9 straight playoff games.
Unbelievable.
Since he won the Stanley Cup for them.
I know. Amazing.
It's a weird sport. No doubt about it. We all think we know what's going to happen, but in hockey, we probably know less than in any other sport because of the nature of the game and how close it is. But we do know one thing: the Ruski's pretty good.
Yeah.
5 goals.
5 goals in the first 4 playoff games. That'll work. He had the hat trick the other night. He's had I think a goal in each of the last 2 games as well after getting shut out in game 1. Yeah, he's in it for the long haul, man. He looks pretty good. He's they have never had a superstar here. As good as they've, as decent as they've been, as much as they made the playoffs, as much money as they threw at Parise and Suter, as much as Gaborik was good. This guy is their first superstar.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake for 24/7 gaming, fun restaurants and bars, and luxurious hotel rooms. And join Club M to bask in the rewards. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
Well, how many? They've only won, 4 playoff series?
Yes, 4 playoff series.
Through the first year, and then two in this century. 2 in
two in the last 10 years. Yeah, because they had the 2 under. I think it was back-to-back years where they won in the first round, and both those times were upsets, more or less. They were 6 seed, 7 seed, and end up winning.
Yeah, it's an amazing marathon, and right now it's if you're really a hardcore fan, you really don't have time to catch your breath, right? There's no of those 2-day gaps, man. Okay, we won today, now we got to win again tomorrow.
Pretty much. Yeah, wake up in the morning like, well, let's go get him again tomorrow.
You wake up in the morning and you got to go play him again the next day. It's quite a drama if you're really fully involved in it. That's for sure.
My favorite trend in the league is, by the way, aside from the fact that they pull the goalie kind of no matter what, they pull him with what the Wild pulled him with. Well, St. Louis pulled their goalie with like 8 minutes left the other day, trying to get down from 3. They were 3 down, and they pulled him with like 8 minutes left, and the Wild pulled Fleury with a couple minutes left yesterday. They're trying to get him off even earlier. But my favorite trend is they'll just shoot the puck at the open net from way down in the other end. Yes. It's like it's worth the icing. You get a stoppage either way. It's worth the icing to just try to finish the game right there. I feel like back, a generation ago, the play was chip it out, get it to the neutral zone, and reset. Now they just shoot it at the net. Brodin banged one in the other night with about 8 minutes left, just shot it right down like 5 seconds after they pulled the goalie, and St. Louis did it right back to him last night.
Yeah, it is weird. That is a big change I've noticed too. Because, and the other thing was, Everson had a couple of games in a row, the Winter Classic, and a game right before that, he pulled them with 8-9 minutes to go when they were 3 down, and a couple of times they got 2 goals to to make it close, and then they gave one up. But yeah, that's something was on. I mean, nobody ever pulled a goalie. They were 3 goals down. If they were going to pull a goalie, they waited until there were 2 minutes left. I don't know what they thought that was going to accomplish, but you're right. That is a big change, and I've really noticed that. Oh man, some of those old coaches would have gone nuts if you were giving them the icing down at your end,
right?
To shoot some 160-foot shot that had a 20% chance of going in the net. So, yeah, that is a weird change. But the fans were all over Dumba today. I noticed last night and then today on Twitter. We're down on Dumba, huh?
He's the one that people like to blame sometimes because his game is a little inconsistent and loose is maybe a good word to describe it sometimes because he's a little bit of a risk taker sometimes, but people sure complain about a guy that's awfully good in that regard. But it's also interesting because he's he could be the one that is expendable this off season too if they decide they've got to keep Fiala. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not enough of a hockey expert to pick out some of the nuances of why a defenseman is good or bad sometimes, but he did look a little shaky yesterday.
Hockey fans are great though. They get on. They find that one guy.
Yes, they do.
The real hardcores. They find that guy. I remember some of the Gophers back in the day, when we had a big Gopher fan base here and it was a big emotional connection here, and they'd get on somebody, man, and they just beat him to death. And then you had Dubé on the radio.
Yeah.
He'd have his victim and he'd talk about Gopher hockey like the whole town and he'd pick out this guy and they'd all be down him. I think one of the guys they got on back in the day was Blake Wheeler. They were beating up Blake Wheeler, who's only had a 15-year career
and only scored like one of the best goals in program history when he beat North Dakota in the Final Five, right, with the sliding, diving, bad end goal.
Yeah, but they are funny. The hockey fans, they get on this guy, and then they all get on this guy. And of course, we get to see even more of that in the social media era. But this was before social media. They pick out that guy, beat him bloody.
Maybe the problem with the Wild now is they're too good. Like who are you going to pick on? Like Victor Rask is gone. Like what? Who else are they going to get?
We can't get on Victor anymore. Yeah.
No.
As I said, right now, in the last couple of games, it's been little while here. It's been Dumbo, maybe because they know he's leaving, so they figure to get on him.
Get his shots in when he can.
Oh, I mean, the Vikings were up and down with them, and I've always said about the Viking fan base, the huge as it is, it's a more optimistic fan base now than those of us who come up from the 4 Super Bowl loss era, where we're fatalists, right?
Yes.
But we got this optimistic fan base, but no, there's never been a fan base in the Twin Cities to compare with the Wild as far as support and positive and making excuses, and they get very little criticism. They can get beat 6-1 and they're going home and they don't get any booze, and the mom and dad and the 2 kids are driving back to Woodbury.
Right.
The great time they had. They got a fantastic audience. It's so much. I mean, you see some of this nostalgic stuff about the North Stars once in a while. No comparison to the support.
No way. Yeah.
I mean, the North Stars basically went broke twice, and these guys are just selling the last month of the season. Every crowd was way over 18. So
right.
It's an amazing fan base, and they deserve a little success here, don't they?
Yeah, I mean,
talk about the Wolves fans. You deserving some success. Now they've had a long drought, but they don't deserve. They don't. We about 3 years ago they had the worst attendance in the league, so it's not like they got this big loyal fan base like the Wild does.
Well, and they deserve to see some They deserve to see some winning playoff hockey here. I think after they lost game 1, I think I looked at the numbers, and the Wolves and the Wild playoff winning percentage was almost identical, and it was like .350. It was terrible. Like the Wild, after they lost game 1, were like 30 and 55 in the playoffs all time. And obviously, it's gotten a little bit better with a couple wins since then. But you throw out the year they made the run when they had 8 wins. It's been pretty brutal.
Yeah, it has. It's this. I always said they really haven't gotten enough heat for their really. If you consider it 03 the jumping off point, right? Where they're okay, now they're competitive. They haven't done much. They have not done much, and this is by far their best team. They're playing a St. Louis team doesn't have. It is a lot more beat up than they are.
Yes,
there's no excuse not to beat them.
I agree. You got to go win game 5 and win this series and get yourself into the second round. Give yourself a chance because this is a team like we've talked about that is built to make a deep run. Whether they do that or not, like you've said, is sometimes up to a little bit of randomness. But in a 7-game series, more often than not, the better team will prevail. It just takes some time sometimes. So they've got to show it. They got to show it in game 5.
Meanwhile, Colorado can sweep Nashville tonight, and they'll be waiting around for a week to play the winner of this thing. And at this time of year, with this tight schedule, that's a big advantage. That's for sure. That I don't know if they're banged up at all, but if they win tonight, they're going to have themselves a week to get ready for the next round. So that's an advantage too.
Patrick, I had all sorts of jokes early in the year about the Twins not making the playoffs, not looking like it was going to be joining the Wolves and Wild, and they're 18-11 now after that 4-8 start. So some quick math tells me 14-3 since that start. We talk a lot about the starters, Patrick. Bullpen now has the 6th best ERA in the majors among the bullpen, and that was kind of what got it done for him on Sunday after the short start from Chris Paddock. I think a bunch of relievers must have gone 6+ innings without giving up a run when they beat Oakland 4-3. It's kind of a different thing every night. They're winning close. They're winning big. Still don't understand it sometimes because it doesn't feel like the sum of all these parts equals 18-11. But man, they keep winning.
Well, we'll find out Tuesday. Houston's coming to town, and if they swing the bats against Houston like they did against Oakland, they will win no games because Oakland's team batting average 200. Is that what I saw? 200, right?
All of baseball is not hidden. It's unbelievable.
Don't worry about Houston. They'll come in here and put a whooping on you if you swing the bats like they did against Oakland.
Oakland, yeah.
Who's terrible. And Oakland's 9 in a row, right? Lost 9 in a row.
Yeah, they're not good this year.
D3. So I'm when I see who they've beaten, I'm not getting terribly optimistic about them because first now Paddock, you end up giving Taylor Rogers through Friday 10 for 10 on saves.
Yeah,
you give him up, and you get this guy back who's got a history of elbow trouble. And now he's having shoulder trouble, and now you give him $6 million at the same time. He's got a blown up elbow, and this other guy will drive you insane. Emilio Pagan.
Oh, yeah.
This guy is a train wreck. He's somehow yesterday. That was a neat save by his standards because it only took 28 pitches yesterday.
only two base runners.
His previous 2 saves, he had the bases loaded. He filled the bases, and he got to a 3-2 count with a 1-run lead. And in both those, this guy's a train wreck. You can't use him. He won't throw strikes. And when he does, they aren't that good at pitches. So they got to come up with somebody else to finish. I think Duffy, the way he's throwing the ball now, might be the guy, although you kind of like him because if push comes to shove, he could give you 2 innings. But the bullpen has been getting them out. But I think the fact who they're getting out might have a lot more to do with it than any greatness. That's for sure. Duran, it was nice to see him bounce back with the 2 inning shutout, 2 inning save the other day. I mean, the thing you gotta like about that kid is not only does he throw 100, but he has got the breaking pitch to go with it and sinker and everything. I mean, once he zeroes it in, if he can stay healthy, he might be the guy you want to close too, because if he gets 3 days off because there's no close opportunity or 4 days off, that's okay. Let that arm rest, right? You know what I'm saying? You don't need if he's getting his work or not, you don't care, because the less work he gets, probably the better you want it. So maybe just go that route. Don't bring me this guy in. This Tingler, what's he using? Tingler, this guy helped get you fired in San Diego. He was pathetic. He was pathetic. He blew like 12 saves, and you're running him out there. What's wrong with this guy?
No other options. I'm just, I'm looking at the stats just to back up what you're saying here. Now, Pagan's got 4 saves now, and to his credit, all 4 of those saves were 1-run saves. Yes. You get a 1-run save, you've earned it. And the first one was pretty clean. That was April 21st against Kansas City. It was a 1-0 win. They did give up a walk, but only 9 pitches. I bet you got a double play in there somewhere, because only 9 pitches and gave up a walk. But the next three saves,
34 pitches.
Yeah,
right?
Next one was White Sox, a hit and 2 walks, 34 pitches. That was the one where he loaded the bases and got the 3-2 pitch, right?
Yep, gave him the 3-2 pitch because he wanted to go home. I mean, it was borderline. It wasn't a egregious call, but it could have been ball 4. So I was at that.
Next outing was
I turned on him that night. He's got to do a whole lot of work to get me back on his side. So,
next outing was a blown save against Detroit. It was just, gave up 1 run in 2/3 of an inning, but threw 23 pitches in that game. Next one was a hold against Baltimore on May 2nd, where he threw 27 pitches in 1 inning, gave up a walk, 2 strikeouts, and then save against the A's Friday night, a hit, 2 walks, 28 pitches. Save Sunday against the A's, a hit, a walk, 28 pitches. His last 3 saves were 28, 28, and 34 pitches in 1 inning.
I compared him to Don Stanhouse, who used to be Earl Weaver's closer, and the guy Earl called Full Pack because Earl was a chain smoker. His nickname for him was Full Pack.
That's great.
And I looked up some Stanhouse stuff. He once had a save that took 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
He once pitched a half. He had this big Harpo Marx red hairdo, He looked like a clown. And Don the Unusual, they call him. And Earl, this guy reminds me of him, because the stuff doesn't look great either. I mean, he doesn't throw it over enough to.
No, he's got.
Judge it, but it's incredible what an adventure.
He's got 10 walks and 8 2/3 innings this year, but somehow his ERA is 2.08.
Well, the advertisement on him was he had a lot of strikeouts, and he didn't walk many, but he gave up home runs. Last year he gave up like 16 home runs out of the bullpen or something. So, but this year he's not throwing strikes.
Nibbling,
Wow. Anyway,
getting away with it, yeah.
But it's nice to come home, and I was there Friday night. That was a pretty good ball game. But you got to get Buxton playing here now.
Yes.
Sore knee. We don't know which it is, knee, hip, whatever it is. He can't take 3 games out of every 7 out. So you're so much less of a team. I will say that Celestino, who looked like he had no business in the big leagues last year,
right?
At least you have a tolerable center fielder to play when Buxton's missing his time.
Yeah, he's a good fielder too.
Not in the same class, but he is a center fielder, which is Kepler wasn't, Jake Cave wasn't. This is the first backup center fielder, and they actually need one. And I think they're going to have to keep him around, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, if Buxton's going to be out this much,
yeah, when they end up going 13 position players, they're going to have to keep him around. I think now it's going to be interesting. Larnach, Kirilloff. I don't know if they're going to. If they can keep both of those guys, if you're only going to have a 4-player bench. But I think Celestino has to stick around, because you never know when he's going to come in and say he can't play today. So
you see the White Sox have started to play now. They've won 6 in a row. They're back to 14 and 13. Now 2 teams above 500 in the AL Central, Cleveland 14-14. It's feeling like a very vintage AL Central with Kansas City at 9-16 and Detroit at 8-19. Detroit was supposed to be a lot better, weren't they?
Yeah, they did some stuff in the offseason, spent some money. How about the Red Sox? They're in the absolute tank. I bet they're getting beat up out in Boston because they, 2 years ago, they were terrible. Last year, they're supposed to be terrible and played great. And now this year, they're in the tank again. So weird baseball season right now, except it is kind of depressing, though, that in the middle of May, that the Dodgers are going to win the World Series.
Right.
They might win 120 games. So it's just an absolute machine, but everything else is kind of chaotic. But yeah, nobody's going to the Twins games yet. Their attendance is terrible.
Right.
It was kind of a nice weekend, but
it was.
You gotta get them interested. I guess you gotta make people believe that there's something going on here, and you gotta get a stretch of good weather too. I mean, Friday, Saturday was great, but better opponents. But right now, I think I looked the other day. They're like in the bottoms now. You can't even judge the home attendance from the previous homestands because the weather was so terrible. But they're in the bottom 5 or 6 or 7 in attendance, which is amazing considering how many bad places there are right now for baseball. Oakland, of course, and Cincinnati and places like that. Cincinnati,
they're below Cincinnati right now. They're 24th. Cincinnati's 23rd.
Yeah, and Cincinnati has done everything they can to anger their fans. Yeah. They were close. What are they doing? Why did they decide to stink?
Money, I bet it's money. I'm sure.
Well, they must have some cheap. That Marge Schott died. She was still owning them, for God's sakes. It's unbelievable what they've done. They've ruined that market too. So They want a stadium, and the Bengals want a new stadium, and that cheap place. Neither of them's going to. Well, if the Bengals might, because they're. Right now they're coming out of a Super Bowl, but the Reds have no chance to get a new stadium. I was talking to somebody, though. There's big hope that Oakland announces in the middle of the summer they're moving to Vegas.
Oh, really?
Vegas is going to give them free land and pay for half the stadium, and their farm club is there, and they got a 12,000 seat stadium they could play in for a couple of years while they wait to build the stadium in Vegas. So they got to get out of Oakland. I mean, they're the number 2 team in that market. They managed to anger everybody. They've had 2 crowds in 2,000s this year. So
I've been to a couple minor league games in Vegas on weekend excursions there. One of them was an afternoon game in July. It is the hottest baseball game you'll ever go to, because that is not, it's because it's minor leagues. That is not any sort of retractable roof situation. Those are the hottest games you will ever go to.
So the guy I was talking to said they'd have to play all night games in the summer.
They have to.
The summer. And even if you got some team coming in that's got to fly somewhere, tough bananas, we got to play at 7:30 at night. So, but baseball's just, they got some places right now that have turned into disasters, and they got to do something about it.
It's interesting. I want to get to horse racing and the Lynx here in a minute, but interesting that the Twins brought up Jose Miranda about a week ago, and they didn't bring him up to sit. He's been playing every game. Hasn't hit a ton. He did have a RBI double yesterday, had a home run on Friday. I think he's only like 4 for 26 so far, but putting the ball in play, only 1 strikeout in those 26 at bats. So they brought him up to hit.
He couldn't outrun me. He's slow as can be. He's a big kid.
Yes.
I think he's not comfortable at all, though, because I've been watching. He's been taking first pitch, hit me pitches, and getting behind in the count. He reminds me of Buxton 5 years ago,
Sure.
Hit that pitch, but he's also a guy who doesn't strike out. So I guess he likes to, look at a pitcher before he swings the bat. But Twice I've seen him take a fastball right down the pipe for strike one in an RBI situation. And I said, this is stupid. Hit that pitch. But he can hit. I think he can hit. And it will really be interesting. They got some decisions to make here, but the fact that they're so left-handed probably means he's going to be around at least until, I don't know if Sano's, maybe in August they'll have had him rehab and gone somewhere. I don't think there's any hurry to get him back. So
No.
I don't know. But yeah, the Miranda's going to probably be around because he's a right-handed hitter and they need one.
Yeah. Let's talk horse racing quick here. Unbelievable. Rich Strike. Just out of nowhere. Just what?
Horse could have been running in a $25,000 race in Canterbury and you wouldn't have picked it.
Wasn't even supposed to be there. It's like a late scratch. He gets into the race, and then all of a sudden wins the thing.
It's a rocket. I thought our guy Zandon was going to win, and maybe Epicenter looked pretty good, and all of a sudden this thing comes down the rail and bursts out in the middle, and it was flying. And of course, then after the race, he's trying to attack the outrider pony there, and it makes you nervous.
Yes,
you're nervous to see that kind of. I don't know enough about horse racing to know if this is common to see a horse crazy, but the guys on TV seemed upset by it.
Yeah.
Rico and the guys talking about it, they seemed upset about. I've never seen a horse act like this. And after last year, we all want to wait for the drug test. But if he does, if he's the winner, 81-1,
unbelievable.
The Exacta paid $4,100.
You see the superfecta paid like $310,000.
Yes, but the Exacta is with the winner, right?
Yeah.
So the second horse is the favorite. With the favorite. The second horse is the favorite. So it's a $4,100 Exacta ticket. Now, what happens a lot is guys bet tickets with the favorite and then put everybody second, make that
sure.
Put everybody there to hit the Exacta. So that wouldn't have paid, obviously, because him, the fact that Rich Strike, right? I can't remember.
Yes, Rich Strike.
The fact that horse won, you had to have him on top. So anyway,
that was amazing. It was a great race too. I mean, just a fast race. It was, they were flying around the track. And you're right. I thought Zandon was going to do it. It was, Zandon and Epicenter down the stretch until Rich Strike just like came out of nowhere. I kept watching on Twitter. They kept showing the overhead angle of where he came from in the last, quarter, half mile. And it was nowhere near.
No, it was incredible. And having been an events that, on deadline with shocking finishes. I felt sorry for Rachel covering it. I said all of a sudden, it's a great thing to write, but you have to get your composure back and say, what the hell just happened?
Right.
Write the thing. It's like, where did this come from? It was, it was incredible. There's no doubt about it. It was, it took a while for the track announcer was really good, and everybody else to realize who the hell it was, too.
Right.
Which person it was that was coming along the rail, and those owners, just looked like a couple of schleps, just schlepped from somewhere, man. Yeah, it's you know what? And we all think that this is exciting when you're at the track. But Lavelle wrote this, I saw Sunday, and everybody, the crowd is mad when a horse like this wins. Because, it's a thrill. I was there when he won, but nobody collects a ticket. Nobody wins. That's why, people are there because they want to cash a ticket. A lot of them are there to drink and everything, but
sure,
you're still, everybody who has their Zandon tickets out at Canterbury was mad, right?
Yeah. Unless they had him to show, which probably was not a very fun ticket to cash. Probably won like $3 on the $2 bet. So,
Yeah, so it was it was amazing, but it's horse racing needs conversation, and this certainly will be it. Let's hope it remains a great conversation. I got news. You think they're going to have the guts to have this horse show up at the Preakness?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question.
You won't even be able to find him with binoculars, for God's sakes, if he runs against these guys again. He's not, for the second race of the Triple Crown, he's not going to chase away many horses.
No, no, that's for sure.
Sometimes when you see that dominant Derby horse, about like 8 of them say, "The hell with it, we're not going."
Nah, we're not going to go there.
And this is Rich Strike is not going to chase anybody off. That's for sure.
Let's talk Lynx quick before we get out of here, Patrick. They're in trouble. They're 0-2. I know they started 0-4 last year and turned it around in a big way. But I look at this team right now. They got obviously Kayla McBride not playing yet. She's still overseas. They got to get some players healthy and back in there. But as currently constructed, lost 78-66 to Washington in home opener on Sunday. Had lost already to Seattle.
4 points in the second quarter.
4 points in the second quarter. Outscored 23-4 in the second quarter. It's almost like they were the Wolves playing in the fourth quarter.
Well, Sylvia's old. Patrick's old and are injured, many injuries. They don't, as Suann wrote it today, they don't really have a point guard. And, Rachel Banham, God love her, she's not the answer. And, they should have gotten my gal, who they're going to be playing Tuesday night, my new favorite women's basketball player, Destiny Henderson, is playing for Indiana. 6:00 game. I'm going to watch because I love that game.
That's right. She was great in that national title game.
And she ate everybody's lunch and enjoyed it. But she's from the Fort, too. She's a Fort Myers kid. But they need somebody. They need I don't know. There's no fresh talent there now. I mean, there's nothing. They're old. And
they cut the rookie of the year from 2 years ago, Crystal Dangerfield, who happens to be a point guard. And they also cut Laisha Clarendon, who's also a point guard.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the one of them was injured, right? One of them was injured, or Clarendon had some.
Clarendon had a little something going on injury wise, yes. So maybe at some point that changes, but
gonna try to bring her back or something. I don't know. Who was the other one that cut the other guard?
Dangerfield they cut, right? Crystal Dangerfield.
I think she landed with Indiana.
I might
be wrong.
Okay. Yeah, she was the one that kind of saved their season 2 years ago, and she was rookie of the year after being a second round pick, but she kind of fell out of favor last year and then it gets cut this year.
Lakes fans are funny though. I ripped Cheryl that her emergency player should have been Maya Moore instead of they don't get the joke on Twitter. They don't get the joke. I realize Maya's not going to come back as a player. It always gives me a chance to point out that they have won 42 playoff games in their history, 40 with Maya.
Yeah.
Out of their 40. Won one since she left.
Bit of a difference maker. She was.
Yeah. But she was LeBron. She was the WNBA's version of LeBron. And it's the league's only a 12-team league, and who knows, a couple of players could make it. I think McBride's really good, so that will help. But if Nafisa decides that she wants to keep the baby at home for the last couple of months of the year, maybe that'll help too. But I think it looked like they had a crowd. They had a crowd. They announced at 8,000 yesterday. Was that right? Did you see that?
People got interested in it. I mean, they've been in the playoffs 11 years in a row. So they got a good fan base. I'm going to look at the attendance right now. Yeah. 8,100 for that game.
Yeah. That was pretty good, but yeah, they had to be 4 points in the second quarter. Wow. I guess, according to what I read today, Cheryl blurted out 23 points late in the first half with an adjective. with Tibbs type adjective.
I bet she did. I bet she's not happy right now.
Isn't it amazing, though, how like a week ago well, not a week ago, man, I guess more than a week ago, we were into the wolves and wondering what was going on and what could they do. And now they're just, with all we got going on, completely off the radar. We won't hear them until September, probably.
Until the draft, at least. Yeah, free agency. It is amazing.
That thing kind of died quicker than it should have, because this was a historic flop, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And some of the fact that no other team had lost the double-digit lead twice in a series, and they did it 3 times.
Show-offs.
Let's keep giving them attention for that incredible failure. We do have a draft choice this year, though, right?
Yes. Yep.
Get a card. It's so late. Probably what, 20th?
I think it's like 19th. Yeah, 19th or 20th, something like that.
Well, maybe you can give the expiring contract and move, and somebody else, and move up and get a guard. They need a guard too. Both our professional basketball teams need a guard. So.
Yes, they do. All righty, sir. Good times talking today. We'll talk next week.
All right. Bring on the Astros. Goodbye.